name is Rachel, and I am here to give you some exciting new releases that were just published today, which is June 14th, 2016. First off is one that I am pretty excited about. I just recently found out this was going to be published, and I'm psyched because I've read all the other books in the series, and this is from the Asylum series by Madeline Rowe. This one is called Escape from Asylum, and it's actually going to be a prequel, so book 0.5 in the series. And so far in the series, we have found these three college students who met as high school students on a college retreat, basically, and the dorm they lived in during this experience was a haunted ex-asylum. And I believe in this prequel, we're going to get more experience with the asylum when it was up and running, with the teenager who is locked away maybe when he shouldn't have been, and his dealings with the warden. I will say that originally this was marketed as American Horror Story for teens. I don't think it's quite to that level, like it's not that freaky. It is kind of creepy though, especially with what is my favorite part is the photographs they add in throughout the books. I believe these are actual real life photographs found from old asylums and other creepy places, and they are creepy. They really amp up the creep factor. So that's probably my favorite feature about these. And again, I am excited for this one because this will be the fifth book that I've read. There are, I think, 4 books. No, there's 3 books in the series, and then there is a book of novellas that I just read this year, and now this one. So I'm excited. Next up is one I think is going to be super, super hyped here on the BookTube and all over the reading sphere. I think it's going to be huge. It's called The Girls by Emma Cline. This is set in North California in the 1960s, and it's basically a fictional account of the Manson cult. Like, it's not actually the Manson cult, but it's kind of like inspired by that, if you get my drift. It follows a girl named Evie who is kind of drawn in by these kind of carefree hippie girls into the cult, and then, you know, bad things happen. It was kind of marketed as a kind of like the Virgin Suicides feel, so keep that in mind. I did start reading this one, and I don't 100% like the author's voice, like the tone, but I think the story itself is going to be so interesting that I'm going to be able to be fine and get through this. But I am excited for the story. I think it's a very interesting idea, and again, I think it's going to be huge. Next up is a book that's actually just being republished today. It's being republished as an ebook, and that is The Big Stick Up at Brinks by Noel Ben, B-E-H-N, and originally this was published in 1976, and it inspired a movie that won some awards in 1978, and this follows the storyline of I think it's 11 people who robbed the Brinks building, the security building, back in the day. And basically the story was compiled from interviews of the people involved. I think it's mostly of the perpetrators. And a lot of the prep for this book, a lot of the build-up for this book is explaining that more money and advertising and publicity went into finding the people who did this robbery than actually the effort it was to rob Brinks building. So it kind of seems like one of those fluke robberies that just worked out and ended up being one of the greatest heists ever. So I think it's going to be really interesting. And again, this is a republication, not a new one, but, you know, it's new to us. The next one is Under the Stars, How America Fell in Love with Camping by Dan White. I think this is going to be a really, really good summer read. It has a 4.5 average on Goodreads right now, and I kind of started reading this one a little bit too, and I really like the tone. I think this is going to give a lot of background about camping as well as his kind of travel experience, and I love those kind of travel memoir books, so I think this is going to be an awesome one. And again, that was Under the Stars by Dan White. Next up is The Invisible Library by Genevieve Cogman, and this is coming out in paperback today. It's already been published before in hardback, but today is the paperback, and basically this is like a thriller about libraries. So, I mean, how could readers not enjoy this? So I think that's going to be interesting. I did get this one as an ARC, and I did not get a chance to start it yet, but I'm hoping to do that soon because I think this is going to be an amazing book. And from what I can see, I think there's going to be at least a second book and probably a third book in this library series, so keep that in mind. Next up is called Heated Up by Stena Lindenblatt, and this is one of those cheesy romances. It's got, you know, the buff guy with the six-pack on the front, but it has some tag words. Finland, anything up in the Scandinavia-ish area kind of draws me in. Hockey, which is huge for me, especially right now after my Penguins just won the Stanley Cup. Woo woo! And it also features the fake romance that, you know, slowly turns into the real one. They pretend like they're dating when they're really not, and then they kind of fall in love. So they've got me there. And again, it is one of those cheesy romances, but isn't that perfect for summer? So I'm excited for this. I did get an arc of this one, although I did not get it read, obviously, before this. But I am planning to read it this summer. Next up is Brighton by Michael Harvey. I don't know too much about this one besides the fact that it's a thriller about two friends who were like childhood friends, and now that they're older, they're going to have to kind of face something serious that happened to them in the past. It kind of sounds like The Departed meets like Mystic River or something to me. So I'm intrigued by this. Actually, the reason I focus in on this is because of the name Brighton. It reminded me of Pride and Prejudice, which I've just been talking about, and it has, from the sounds of it, nothing to do with it, but that's what caught my attention, and I really like the plot of this so far, so I'm hoping to get my hands on a copy of this one, maybe from the library, and give this a read. This is probably going to be a really great beach read, too, being kind of fast-paced, thriller-based, so... Next is one that's kind of weird. I don't know how I feel about this one, but I thought I'd throw it out there because it did catch my attention. It's called I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. And the tagline says, "You will be scared, but you won't know why." That sounds really interesting. And it says, basically, this girl was left in like an abandoned high school or a high school that's been closed for some amount of time, and she's not sure how she's going to get out. So I'm not really sure how that's, I don't know. Locked in a school, that doesn't sound as awful, but it is supposed to be a page-turning thriller, and it seemed like a lot of people who reviewed this, I didn't want to read too much because, you know, you don't want the thrillers to be spoiled for you, but it was, a lot of people mentioned that it was very suspenseful, and it did keep them turning the pages. But a lot of people either loved it or hated it based on the ending. So I'm assuming there's some sort of a twist. And like I said, people either loved it or hated it. There wasn't a lot of like, ratings. There was like, I really didn't like this or I really liked it. So that kind of draws me in. I'm interested to see about this book. And lastly for today, one that I am excited for just because it's kind of different and I don't know, I'm just really excited for this. It's called The Whale, A Love Story by Mark Beauregard. And this follows the relationship between Nathaniel Hawthorne and Herman Melville. Now, Nathaniel Hawthorne wrote like The House of Seven Gables and The Scarlet Letter, and then Herman Melville obviously wrote Moby Dick, which is kind of implied there with the title, The Whale. And it's kind of, I really had no idea that there was any relationship at all between these two, but in one of the reviews I read, it says that actually Herman Melville dedicated Moby Dick to Nathaniel Hawthorne. So A, I want to check that out because I did not know that. And two, I feel like I'm kind of on a Moby Dick kick. I really want to read it. I just haven't amped myself up for it yet because I did read In the Heart of the Sea by Nathaniel Philbrick last year. In the Heart of the Sea was the account of the shipwreck that actually inspired Moby Dick. So I've kind of been on this Moby Dick kick anyway, and this sounds like a really interesting backstory. I think maybe this would kind of amp me up to read Moby Dick because it's kind of a Haas, and you know how those classics go, so I'm not sure when I'm going to read that, but The Whale, A Love Story sounds very interesting. Now, there was some debate on how factual it was, so I'll also be interested to see if there are sources there and maybe read more on this topic. And I know that I heard somewhere else that there's supposed to be another book that's kind of similar coming out this summer as well. So interesting that this has kind of come up. I'm wondering if, because In the Heart of the Sea was made a movie, if this is all kind of coming up with Moby Dick. But who knows? So those are the books that I am looking forward to that came out today on June 14th. Let me know down below if any of these sound good to you, and if there are any books that you know of that are coming out today that you'd like to share. We'd love to hear it. But that is all I have for you today. If you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, please, so I'll know to keep making these type of videos. And if you don't mind, and you're not already, go ahead and hit that subscription button to be notified when I post new videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day. I will see you again soon with a new video. Bye for now.